Okay, this is another video. I actually wasn't going to do this video, but 46 part B. It's actually quite difficult to talk about mental breakdowns, a sort of post-traumatic shock disorder kind of thing. And the matter of fact is, when I had my first mental breakdown, I was lucky enough to go to the hospital. The second mental breakdown, I got no help from anyone. The third mental breakdown, I got no help from anyone. I spoke, a friend of mine, when I was having the mental breakdown, he rang up like the NHS, oh, my friend, he's in this situation, but nobody gave a shit because they're overworked as well. So I never got to see when I had my first mental breakdown in the early 2000s, right? I got to see a psychiatrist, and he helped a ton. He helped a ton. I will be forever grateful to that guy. Um, but the second mental breakdown and the third mental breakdown, it's like I got no help, and I thought, well, how do you get, how do you get help? There's this great system we have, the NHS, and the funniest thing is I know other people who have had mental breakdowns. They can't work. They're on pills and potions, and I thought, fuck that. I don't want any pills and potions. It's like I just the thing is talking therapy. I mean, I've had mental breakdowns. Some of my friends have had mental breakdowns because of some of them were in the cult. Some of them have just life's broken them down, you know. So I sort of hang around other people who aren't working and can't work, and we talk about things. But, what is worse, on top of having the mental breakdowns, if you're no use to a cult, they'll shun you, and then it's like, I remember January 1995, the first service I ever went to. Let me just, what's that doing? Okay, right. Oh, back again. Right, 46B, yeah. The first service I went to, I was in my early 20s. I was working, had a decent job, had a degree, life was good. I didn't know that many people. And then I went to this cult church service on the Sunday. I'd been invited at Prince's Mead, Farnborough on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday I was at this church in a rented room in a school, and I noticed there were some good-looking women there, and I thought, oh well, maybe this is a place to make friends, and they were all very friendly. But turn the clock forward to sort of 2015. Never got married, no kids, no job, 3 mental breakdowns, post-traumatic shock disorder, not really wanting to wake up most days, if I'm honest, hanging around with other people who've had mental breakdowns, you know, um, and just sitting around waiting to die, basically. It's not much of a fucking life, is it? But I still, even through all this shit, want to help people out of cults. Yeah, I know I'm not that good with people. I've even been shunned by ex-member groups. That's another kick in the arse, isn't it? So there was this American ex-member group, ex-members of sort of ICOC or whatever. But because I'm an atheist, it's like as soon as they found out I'm an atheist, then no more emails, no more contact. So not only shunned by the cult, but shunned by other ex-members. And it's like, do I want fellowship with cult experts? Oh, he's a Jew, and I'm an atheist. Oh, therefore we can't have any kind of fellowship. You know, it's so sad that religion exists, right? Because religion is bullshit. Exactly as George Carlin, if you just Google or YouTube, George Carlin, religion is bullshit. It's just a fucking scam. 4 billion brainwashed people, and the brainwashing's been going on for thousands of years, and fucking stupid people can't see how brainwashed they are. But me, I can see it, but I've had my 3 mental breakdowns, to sort of get to where I am. Um, but as well as having all these mental breakdowns and then recovering and then still being around some cult friends and, trying to get my life together. But, I remember that this cult leader in London, this London ICC guy, this salesman, scammer, con man, just a complete greaseball. It didn't end well because I think he figured out that I was asking questions about where was the money going and, all of that. And then I got shunned and I got lied about from behind the pulpit, and that's on top of 3 mental breakdowns, on top of not working, not having a career, not having a girlfriend, not having anything. Just literally sitting around waiting to die. I laugh at it. My existence now relies on luck. Luck and chaos theory is how I exist. I enjoy movies like Pi, the one from 1988, all about sort of quantum mechanics and physics and maths and all of that stuff. So my existence is based upon randomness now. I will randomly exist until I die, But the thing is, not only do cults shun people, Jehovah's Witnesses are notorious for it. They're really abusive to people who don't go along with the scam. Cults like Xinjiang and you people read all the horror stories. Oh, this pastor, he got caught embezzling millions of dollars. That other pastor, sexual abuse. This pastor's son was caught trying to get with a teenager or whatever. And it's like there's so much bad stuff goes on in this world, but who is policing it? Who is stopping it? It's only the tip of the iceberg that you actually see or hear about in the news. Which leaves me to conclude, even though I had a mental breakdown about thinking it was the end of the world, maybe it is. But no, there is no third temple yet. It can't be the end of the world without the third temple. But not only was I shunned, I was also under this delusion for 20 years that I could get married. But in a cult, you can't get married unless you are a member in good standing. And what that means is you pay pretty much every tithe, you recruit and you obey. Yeah? And it's like, if you meet that benchmark, then they'll arrange a marriage. Somebody will come up and they'll say, how's it going, Bob? You're doing well as a disciple. Did you know, Sandra likes you? And they'll arrange behind the scenes to sort of pair people off. So they micromanage people's lives. But I was under this delusion that because I'm friendly, because I'm nice, that's good enough. I wasn't really giving money to the cult for probably the last, in the ICOC, after 2000, I thought, I'm not giving money to this, but I kept on going, and I kept on trying to bring people along. But yeah, it was just, a lot of people are half in and half out of cults as well, I was half in, half out, but socially I was in, but doctrinally I was out. But I kept going because they were my friends, kind of thing. But then you get shunned, then you get lied about, and then you realise the whole thing's a con, and then you think, Jesus, that Saturday at Prince's Mead Farnborough, I should have told that friendly guy to just fuck off, mate. I might have kept my job. I might have got married. life might have been different. I mean, maybe I would have had a happy marriage, maybe I wouldn't. I don't know. And there's almost no point in thinking about it, of how life could have been. But, when they tell you that everyone you love and everyone you know that isn't in the group is going to hell, and then you're going to hell because you haven't done enough recruitment, or you haven't given enough money, or you don't obey, and it's not, the thing is, it's subtle. It's subtle because they sort of tell you you're going to hell in ever such a nice way. It's like, you know, I'm trying to think of some of the things they said. You know, you say you love God, but you're not bringing people along. So therefore, you don't love God. Therefore, you're not going to be with God after you die, because you're not bringing people along. But the way they say it is so smooth. It's almost like face to face with somebody where you're telling them you're the worst piece of shit on the planet and you're going to burn in hell forever. But they sell it, they sort of say it in such a sweet, eloquent way. And that's what the devil's all about, really. Not that the devil exists, but these people are the devil, kind of thing. So they can sort of spit in your face in ever such a pleasant way. I might come across as angry, because I am, but who made me angry? I'm not an angry person, but these cults make people angry. They change people's personality. A lot of the ex-members that I see once in a blue moon, we don't talk about it because it's too painful to talk about. It's like, it's almost, I mean, it really is like PTSD. But nobody, oh, well, you weren't on the front line with a rifle. No. But I'm certainly traumatised. And, people make you feel guilty. Oh, you've had 3 mental breakdowns, you've got PTSD, but you haven't earned it. It's, oh, well, I haven't earned this suffering. I haven't suffered enough to get your empathy. Well, fuck you, kind of thing. And it gets very emotional. It gets very depressing, and the system doesn't give a fuck. It really doesn't. It's no one. I don't drink, but trust me, I don't drink because my father drank and that put me off. But, it's like, I understand why people turn to drink and people turn to drugs, because the world is just so fucked up. I mean, you got Donald Trump. All he ever boasts and brags about is how much money he's making, but don't ask where the dead bodies are, kind of thing. It's depressing. And I think the thing that depresses me the most is this: the fact that the people who could do something about this don't. Yeah, I can put videos up. I can create a YouTube channel. I can talk about it. If you want to email me, just leave a comment. We can talk. But I'm not. I'm actually. I made a decision this year not to do any more of these videos, and here I am doing these videos. But I genuinely, as I said with my friend, we've been talking about starting a business. So it's now 12 in the morning, nearly, and I've been talking about cults from about 10 o'clock. With those 2 hours, I could have read some books, I could have made some circuits, I could do more programming. I've got several projects that I've written down, but maybe nobody ever watches these videos, or maybe they watch them years from now. This is not a way to make money. I